And as soon as he's flipped that switch in his head of how to approach the agent, to be the buyer, to actually see himself as the person who needs to be sold, everything changed. So if you're making calls right now to real estate agents and you're selling yourself, you're gonna get hung up on. You gotta stop selling yourself. You gotta be sold. You have to take the mentality of the buyer. You've gotta be the person that brings the money to the table.
Here's what I do. I say, look, I'll put down big earnest money, I'll waive inspections, I'll pay our non-refundables, I'll do all of that. But the trade-off, agent, is it's gotta be a deal. Because if I contract it at those high numbers like you've had before, then I'm gonna be another one of those guys that backs out of the contract because it's not a deal. The reason why it's falling out of contract, agent, is because you're contracting it at too high a price. I can get the deal done and I can perform and I can close, but we gotta be at 100, not 125 where it keeps falling out. Guys, welcome back to another video. Jamil,
Hey.
here we are again. We're doing all about how to work with agents to make money as a wholesaler. And we've been breaking down a ton of topics here in this series. Hope you guys are enjoying it. Let us know if you are and what your questions are. We also try to hit those questions all the time too. So we might do more videos. So please keep asking those questions. We'll do our best to answer those. And Jamil, this is an exciting topic that you wanted to do. And it's around the mindset with working with agents.
Yeah,
and how we approach
frame.
those
Yeah.
relationships. And
Correct.
so talk about why that's so critically important. We're wholesalers, they're agents. We're trying to figure out how to work together where everybody makes money and we solve problems. But oftentimes wholesalers maybe bring the wrong attitude.
Yeah, well, so here's what's really interesting, and you know, one of our attendees here, Dr. Jason, was telling me that whenever he gets on the phone with an agent, they hanging up on him. Like he can't get past the introduction, or like he gets, you know, a few words in and they're like, bye. And so to that perspective, when that's all that's happening to you, if you're calling 100 of them and everybody's hanging up on you, you're gonna say it's impossible. Like these guys don't want to talk to me. And I immediately knew what was happening. He was selling. He was selling himself to the agent right away. So it's like, hello, Mr. Agent, my name is Jason Baca, and I would, dang it, what did I do? Well, when you're a real estate agent, what's ending up happening a lot of times is they're getting blown up all day by marketing companies, Zillow, Redfin, photographers, this person, that person, title people, stagers, all of the things for business.
Tire kickers, a lot of tire kickers,
right? They're constantly being sold because they deal in a high value commodity, right? So they have access to moving big chunks of money. And the agent gets tired of that. Now, what agents want to do is more business. And they want to do business with people that want to do business. So that means that there's two people in a real estate agent's world who want to do business, a seller and a buyer. So they know what the seller is because that's their listings. That's just somebody who says, hey, I'm sell my house, right? And you see an agent will do all kinds of things to get that deal, right? They'll lie, they'll inflate, overpromise, they'll all the things. They put themselves on park benches, bus stops, magnets, notepads, all the things so that they can attract the seller, right? So you see how hard they work for that. But they need buyers too. And what ends up happening is that we don't see ourselves as buyers. Wholesalers often, we miss that point that we're on the buy side. And that when we're on the buy side, we have to get sold. We need to be sold. Now, the kinds of properties that we want to buy as wholesalers are typically pretty bad, right? They're not beautiful. They don't have a sparkling kitchen, a beautiful bathroom, you know, open area design, highest quality material. No, you're gonna fall through the floor, dude, right? This house sucks. And it's a hard thing for an agent to sell, right? So we are even more valuable in that relationship because we're willing to buy the trash. But why don't we approach the call and the dance in that fashion, right? And I think a lot of the time it has to do with the fact that we have the idea that, well, we're not closing. But I'm going to challenge that, because you are closing, right? You're bringing the pieces to the table that transact, that close the deal. Now, if you don't feel like that, why? Why? Well, probably because you may not believe in the number that you've given. Maybe you don't understand. You don't know where there's value. You don't see the potential. Who's ever heard, if you buy the right deal, the money will find you? Right? What does that mean? What does that mean? It means that you had to put in enough work into understanding that where the opportunity was, you had to see the potential, and then you had to then bring that potential to market, and the money will find you. Now, there was a deal I did, a mansion in Arcadia, and incredible house. Unfortunately, it was so custom that it was built by a gentleman who was really trying to like give his wife the house of her dreams. It was a 3-bed, 5,000 square foot home. Now, you've built luxury houses, right?
Yeah.
How many 5,000 square foot homes have you built with 3 bedrooms?
None.
None, right? And how many 5,000 square foot homes do you think are going to be desirable to people out there with 3 bedrooms? None. So this guy builds this house. His wife, unfortunately, passes away 6 months after building it. And so it's just him. And he's in this house that's kind of dysfunctional for the modern family who's looking for a 5,000 square foot home. And so he puts the house on the market for $1 million. And it's on the MLS. And it doesn't sell. They reduce it, $975, $950. Near the 6-month mark, Monique Walker's the agent. They reduced it to $900,000. Nothing. So what does she do? She calls me. She's like, Jamil, I have a problem. And I know this isn't the kind of house that you typically buy because it's beautiful, but I can't sell this thing. The MLS won't sell it. It's like just not moving. What can we do here? And so what did I bring to the solution, right? What did I bring? I brought the new perspective, the lens in which to see it. So when I first looked at the house, I'm like, I don't think I can do anything with this thing. But then I looked around the neighborhood and I saw, well, what's really different about this house is that it's sitting on an acre. And everywhere around it is just these little 6,000 square foot lots, right? With these 2-story homes. And so I said, wow, well, what's the zoning on this? And it happens to be R16, just like the rest of the neighborhood, right? So that means that I can take an acre and I can split them into 6,000 square foot lots. Okay, so what everybody is focusing on is the 3-bed mansion that's dysfunctional because it's 5,000 square feet and nobody wants a 5,000 square foot 3-bed home. What if we knock that sucker down? What's the acre worth? Oh, builders are paying 1.5 for an acre in this area? And we have an acre priced at $900K sitting on the MLS for 6 months? So by changing the perspective and how I saw it, the whole deal changed. So what I did is I ended up saying, okay, Monique, take it off the MLS. Okay, it's off the MLS. Now, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to a builder with a plan. So I did. I approached a gentleman named Mike Zerbib. He's a builder in Arizona. And I said, I have an acre of land for sale in Arcadia. And I'm going to discount it because they're trading for 1.5. It's yours, wholesale price, 1.3. I'll take it. I'll take it. So now, where did the $400,000 to come from, right? So again, did I close on that? No. But why was I so valuable? Because I saw what I was able to do. So when you're on the phones and you're not treating yourself like the buyer, and I brought you up, Jason, because he was getting hung up on every time that and as soon as he flipped that switch in his head of how to approach the agent, to be the buyer, to actually see himself as the person who needs to be sold, everything changed. So if you're making calls right now to real estate agents and you're selling yourself, you're going to get hung up on. You got to stop selling yourself. You got to be sold. You have to take the mentality of the buyer. You've got to be the person that brings the money to the table. And I mean this. If you ever go to a car dealership, who's ever walked into a car dealership, right? Like, how long does it take before they're on you? Right? And they got all the, it's like, would you like a coffee? Would you like a chocolate? Would you like a drive? Would you want a massage? Whatever you want. You're a buyer and I need you, right? Like, and the attitude that you can you change, your energy shifts in that because you're like, I'm okay, just looking. You're almost flippant about it, right? Like, it's like, leave me alone. I'm doing my thing here. Like, at that level, when we're doing the outreach to the agents, that has to be the through line. That, hey, what do you got right now that can separate me from my money? I want to spend it, and you might have something that can separate me from it, but you're going to need to work for it. So what do you got?
Like that.
And when you're in that frame, when you're in that mindset and you're in that energy, that person will dance. They will dance for you. They will go out and find for you. They will do the bidding for you. But you have to come with that approach. And if you don't come with that approach, you're going to get hung up on.
Yeah.
You're going to get denied.
I love that, Jamil. That's such a great way to look at it. I think, too, guys, like, if I could add to what Jamil's saying here, a lot of times I see wholesalers shoot themselves in the foot with agents. And I don't know, Jason, if this is what's happening to you, but you have to put yourself in the perspective of the agent. If they're an active agent and they're transacting at a halfway decent level, they have already run into a wholesaler who backed out of a contract, probably multiple times. So they're jaded a little bit. And you have to approach that call, every call you do, knowing that. Now, if you get a stay-at-home mom who got her license and she happened to get a listing, she may never have run into a wholesaler yet, and you can get away with murder. And they'll waive inspections, and they won't ask for proof of funds, and they'll do all the things, and it's a needle in a haystack. Most agents have had a bad experience with a wholesaler, and they're jaded, and so they got a wall up when you pick up the phone and talk to them. And then what you do is you make it worse by shooting yourself in the foot by saying and doing things that communicate to the agent that you're flaky, and you're uncommitted, and you're unreliable. And you got to stop that stuff, because all it's doing is it's getting a no, I don't trust you, I don't like you, I don't want to work with you, because you're just like the last wholesaler that backed out of the contract we signed. And so here's some things, like, what do you think those things are? There's some things that you're doing. You're saying to the agent, you may not say it directly, but the way that you're trying to position yourself with the deal is you're communicating that you're not committed. And so what do? I talked to a student about this yesterday, Jamil, where he's in Texas, he makes an offer, agent's very reluctant, and says, you know what, I think I'm willing to make this offer, but here in Texas, we have an option fee, and it's $200. And on top of the earnest money, which, by the way, I want it to be $4,800, you need to pay this, what are they there, like $500, $600, $400, I forget what they are, whatever they are, $200, I think it was $200. She said, you got to pay this non-refundable option fee of $200. And guess what he said? Well, I don't want to do that. And I asked him, I said, why didn't you pay the $200? And he said, well, I don't know if I can wholesale it, and I don't want to be out the $200. And I said, and that's what you communicated to the agent. You actually did the very thing the agent was intending to happen, which was find out if you're actually committed to this offer.
Right.
And you're not. Yep. Because you're not willing to put the $200 in. And I get it. I don't want to lose $200 either.
And why is he not willing to do that? Because he's probably not put in the time to understand the number right.
Yes, that's exactly why. Because here's what happened. In that situation, this had fallen out of contract 2 times.
Yep.
And I said to him, well, did you ask what it was under contract for before? And he said, no, but the agent had told me that the offer I wanted to make was probably acceptable. So I said, okay, so you're trying to recontract it at the same price it's already fallen out of contract with other wholesalers. That's why it's falling out of contract. It's not actually a deal. And so what's the agent doing? The agent is creating filters to weed out uncommitted wholesalers. They're saying, I want proof of funds, and it can't be crappy proof of funds. It's got to be real proof of funds. I want real earnest money. I want $4,800 in earnest money. I want you to see the property. That's another one that agents will do to filter out uncommitted wholesalers. I don't want a sight unseen offer. I don't want a tiny earnest money. I don't want the earnest money due after inspection. I don't want a big inspection period. All of that is communicating what? What is that communicating to the agent?
Non-committal.
That you're not very committed and they don't want to lock it up again with an uncommitted wholesaler. Now, if you can't do those other things, like waive inspections and big earnest money, if you can't do those things, then you can't do those things and you work with what you can do. And you just have to deal with it. My point is go in with your eyes open though. Know that what you're doing by saying those things is you're communicating that you're not committed. Now I do the opposite. Here's what I do. I say, look, I'll put down big earnest money. I'll waive inspections. I'll pay our non-refundables. I'll do all of that. But the trade-off, agent, is it's gotta be a deal. Because if I contract it at those high numbers like you've had before, then I'm gonna be another one of those guys that backs out of the contract because it's not a deal. The reason why it's falling out of contract, agent, is because you're contracting it at too high a price. I can get the deal done and I can perform and I can close, but we gotta be at 100, not 125 where it keeps falling out. Do you see the difference here? So I'm teaching the agent and I'm approaching this from the perspective of I perform, and the reason why I perform is because I only buy good deals. Let's make this a good deal and we can get this done.
Yep.
Now, I was on the phone with Jamil and we were doing our calls, and that agent was exactly that. They even said, I hate wholesalers.
Yeah. He's like, if you're a wholesaler, you can hang up right now.
Yep. And guess what one of his filters was? One of his filters to weed out non-committed wholesalers was a site visit. He said, we will not contract with someone who doesn't do a site visit. And this was a fire damage. Okay? Now, when an agent says that to me, I say to the agent, I say, look, we make 5 to 10 offers a day, every single day. I couldn't possibly go see every property we make an offer on. Could you imagine what that would be like? If I got to come to the property, I got to bring my team, my contractors, my investors, my partners, just so that I can make an offer that maybe gets accepted, maybe doesn't. Could you see that? Like I asked the agent, and the agent's like, yeah, I get it, but we don't want to contract without someone who's seen the property because of what's happened to us in the past. Okay, so first thing I do is I say to them, is there something going on here that I don't know about?
Mm-hmm.
That's not reflected in the pictures? Because there's probably a reason why you're getting over contracted prices. It's because you're not probably being all the way transparent about what's going on. Otherwise, that wouldn't be happening. And I get it, it's fire damage and all of that. So for step one is like, okay, how do I overcome this objection? How do I show confidence? I'll say to the agent, without a doubt, we'll do a site visit. But I don't need to do that before we make an offer and get a contract. We can have a reasonable due diligence period, and we can get in there and make sure everything pencils, right? So first I overcome it. But what if the agent is saying, we will not contract this unless there's a site visit. We want to make sure you're committed. Guess what Jamil did? He did the freaking site visit.
Yep.
Okay, he did the site visit. Now, does Jamil want to do site visits every single offer? Heck no.
No.
Probably very rarely does Jamil do site visits, but he's in a situation right now where he's got an agent who's verbally communicating, I do not want to work with flaky wholesalers. So now Jamil has to change his game and he has to come at this conversation and he has to approach this offer completely different than he has or wants to or typically does. So you guys got to feel that out. So with my student here, when the agent said $4,800 earnest money, guess what he said? He said, well, can I pay the earnest money after inspection?
Yeah.
And guess what the agent did? Click, yeah. And I said, why did you say that? And he said, well, I don't want to pay the earnest money. And I said, I know, and that's what you communicated. The agent is telling you that I want a big earnest money. You don't go asking to pay the earnest money after inspection when they're telling you they want a big earnest money. Why? Because they're saying to you, I ain't working with a flaky offer. I'm just not going to do a flaky offer. And saying I want earnest money after inspection is saying what?
I have no commitment.
I don't want to be committed. I'm not willing to risk anything. I want an uncommitted contract. And he said, yeah, but Jerry, I don't have the $4,800. And I said, I know you're not going to get a deal done with this agent. You're just not. Because you have to approach that agent where they're at.
Yep.
And you have to feel that. You have to know that. You have to have, like Jamil's saying, you got to come to this and say, tell me why this is a deal. Tell me why I should pay this price. You sell me on why this is a deal. And I'll tell agents, there's no way I can pay that number. And anybody else who does is probably going to back out because that's not a deal. This will trade, but you got to get real about where the number is. And I can get you real, and I can come in, and I can give you all the things you want, but you got to give back to me. You got to give me a deal that's actually a deal. and we can get something done here, and have that confidence.
Part of that is being able to put yourself in the shoes of who your opponent is or who you're up against. And again, when we're talking to the agent, right? If you can't see from their perspective that how damaging it is for a deal to go under contract and cancel, what that does to their seller, what that does to their ability to maybe keep the listing.
It tags the property.
It does.
It tags I call it tag, meaning now this thing's got a bad label on it.
Yeah,
because it fell out. So instantly buyers are like, oh, it fell out, something's wrong.
Canceled contracts and days on market are like a salvage title on a car.
Yeah.
It devalues the home and it degrades the relationship between the agent and the seller because the seller is expecting the agent to be their fiduciary. They're there for their benefit to be able to help them through the process.
I'm that way. When I look at the history and I'm like, oh, this thing fell out of contract 3 times.
Wrong? Yeah.
I'm coming in here with a bam.
Yep. A gut punch because we know what that does, right? Yeah. And I'll even communicate that to the realtor. Like, man, when a realtor says to me, oh, my seller wouldn't be able to take in this market, you've been on the market for 90 days. In this market,
that's the kiss of death.
At that price, I mean, look, regardless, the number I'm giving you is either going to happen today with me or it's going to happen in 3 months with somebody else.
Yeah, but it's going to happen.
And it's going to happen at this number. So what are we doing?
Can I add something in a minute? 98% of my offers, right, they get a client, and I go back to them and I look at it, and it's always higher than me.
When they sell?
Yeah. So I don't think it's because I got to buy at a discount, right?
Yeah.
Money, and a lot of people, they buy within 50K. Sometimes.
And sometimes they'll trade lower than what you gave, right? They happen, and maybe you need to adjust the number a little bit. You might be coming in a little low, and that's okay. You got to look at evidence to see where could I correct? Because if there's a buyer buying that's an investor buyer, maybe you need different buyers. Maybe you need to expand the network. Maybe that's going to allow you to.
But I doubt that's true if it's long days on market. That's not true with long days on market. Because what's happening is when the thing first comes out or it's in the first couple of weeks, then there might be some validity to that. Meaning, if they just wait a second, there's probably going to get an offer at our trade number.
On a fresh listing that happens.
At our exit number.
Yep.
So we're 15 under the exit number because it's going to actually sell at where we would wholesale it because they just attracted the end buyer that we try to wholesale to. But not when that thing's been sitting out for a long time. It's way overpriced.
Yep.
And they're just off. Otherwise, it would have sold already. So then when you're coming in, what's happening now is you're coming into a salvage title issue. You're like, hey, your property's tagged, man. Like, you've been sitting out here for 120 days. You're way overpriced. It's time to get real about where the number is. And I can help you get there, but let's get real now. And so that's having that conversation. Jason, I never have an agent hang up on me when I approach the call and I'm like, hey, I see this thing fell out of contract 3 times. I see this thing's on the market. You've changed the price a bunch. I'm an investor. What's going on here? You tell me why I should be looking at this thing and why I should be making an offer. Because right now I'm feeling like this thing's it's got problems. Why hasn't this sold? I'll come right out and I'll say, tell me why this hasn't sold, because if I'm going to make you a cash offer, I need to understand what's going on here. And so the energy is like, you sell me. Mm-hmm. I'm not desperate here. I'm looking for a deal. We're looking for a deal. And we're a buyer and we have cash and access to cash.
I recommend that if you're having a hard time getting into that state, just go to a car dealership and stand in the showroom for 10 minutes and embody what it feels like to be sold, right? To feel that, to be like, man, I actually can. I'm the man. I'm the lady. I'm the one who moves the money, because you are the one who moves the money. Right. So
unless they sniff out that you're a tire kicker.
Yep.
If you go to the used car dealership and you walk in and you're like, hey, I got no money, no credit, but can you show me some cars? What are they going to do?
No, they're not showing you nothing.
Get out of here. And that's what we're doing. I see wholesalers get on the phone and they're like, hey, I got no money, no nothing. They're basically saying, I want to buy a house with no money and no credit, and I want all these flexible terms, and I want a long close period. I want no I don't want to show proof of I want all this stuff. And then they're like, Jerry, I can't get a deal. No one will take me serious. Well, stop acting like a tire kicker and people will start taking you serious.
Yes.
That's what I was just gonna say. Like that's why it's cool that Jamil just harps on confident and knowing value, because when you just really master your market, know the value, then you come in with that confidence and you can go non-refundable. You know, this money, so you know it's gonna be at that price.
Yeah, I did that's so true. I mean, he's saying come in with that confidence. I did a video where I did a live call with an agent, and the agent, we get to value, Jamil, this was funny, and the agent says, well, there's a comp on the street at 380. And I said, okay, where? And she's like, it's right there. And I said, oh, it's active. I said, you're talking about this active? She's like, yeah. And I said, okay, well, let's take a look at this thing. I'm like, yeah, it's nice, but it's been on the market 90 days and it's not sold. It's an active. And I said, have you seen this one? And she's like, what one? I'm like, this one on the next street over, that's sold. And it's sold for 340. That's active at 380. This one sold for 340. What are we? So here I am. I'm like, I can have an intelligent conversation now because I know what I'm doing and I know what I'm looking at, and I know how to take what they say and be like, yeah, but that's not legit.
Right.
And I know you're looking at that, and I know you want to use that as value, but that's not sold yet. Right? So see how we have to be able to have these conversations, and I got her completely to relook at this and then see the numbers differently because I can have that conversation because I know how to talk about it.
Yeah, and it's all evidence-based, right? So again, when you're talking to an agent, how many times, who's seen a house listed on the MLS in original condition at ARV? Everybody has seen that, right? I love that. I love it because here's what it does. It provides me such a big gap between where I can get the contract at versus where it's listed that when I push that out to my buyers, they're instantly intrigued. They're instantly wanting to see and look at the deal. They'll actually pay more attention to that than they will in off market because they see that big gap. They're like, wow, this thing's listed for 500 and Jamil just sent me a deal text at 380. What? How did he get that? Let's comp it. Oh, ARV is 500, but 380 is a pretty good deal. Hey, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Got it. So it did the work for me. So I love that when they do that, right? And what's really interesting is when you have the conversations. I was just doing a live the other day, and this real estate agent, she ended up texting me the next day. She's like, "Hey, thanks for the laugh yesterday, and I would love to do business with you," because we were chatting about the house that she has, right? And she priced it really well. I said, you know what I love about what you've done here is that you priced the house well. And she's like, yeah, and I got like 30 contracts that I got to go through. I said, I'd love this shit. I'd love to like save you all that brain damage in the future. So what does it take? Like, what do we need to go on a date? Do I got to buy you ice cream? What is it going to take for me to be the guy instead of you going to the MLS for the next one? She's like, well, let's start with coffee. Right now, you guys probably have heard me say I don't do coffee with agents. But that one that I know will price right, yeah, we're having a latte, right? And it's important now because now she wants to earn the relationship with me too, right? So she took a step to text me the next day. And so I can see, oh, this is going to become another Monique Walker for me, right? Where this person is going to be highly invested in doing work for me because she sees me as an opportunity to sell more real estate because I'm a legitimate trusted buyer. And she doesn't have to go to the MLS and sift through 30 contracts to bring money to the table, right? So you got to see yourselves in that. And there's a book I read, it's called The Buy Side. And it's about a Wall Street trader who is constantly being sold. And it's just this, the energy of it is like how everybody wants this guy to be their friend. Everyone is trying to get this guy on their side, right? So if you're having a hard time, go feel what it feels like to be a buyer. Read the book, go to a car dealership, do the thing, but embody that energy and then communicate that on the phone.
Yeah. Jamil, I had a similar situation where I called this agent and I knew it was hot because it was just priced so good. And so I answer the phone with the agent. I say, hey, your phone's blowing up, isn't it? She's like, oh my gosh, you have no idea. And I start joking. I'm like, well, how many showings do you have? And do you have offers on the table already? She's like, yeah, offers are coming in. yeah, this thing's gonna go like a hotcake. And I said to her, I said, let me ask you something. Why didn't you call me before you listed this? And she's kind of quiet. And I knew she's thinking, what is he talking about? And she's like, well, I don't know you. And I said, did my number not come up when I called you as Jerry Cash Buyer? And she's like, no, I've never talked to you before. And I said, well, that's the problem right there. I'm just disrupting guys, right? Like Jamil does. You see how funny Jamil is when he jokes around, he makes fun, and he says, can I take you on a date? What do we got to do? And like, so I try to do the same thing. I try to approach the conversation with like, I'm confident, I'm together here. You need to sell me. You need me, not I need you. Like, we're not bringing this desperate energy. I think that's one of the biggest problems I see is just this desperate energy that comes through, and agents instantly know, tire kicker, not serious, don't trust this person, hang up.
The algorithm of life hates desperation. It does. People can't stand it.
No, they run from it.
They don't want it.
They run from it.
They run from it.
Yeah. Okay, good. So this was awesome. I really hope you guys got a lot of value out of this one where you take away that way you approach it. And I think too, Jamil, like you've talked about this a lot, is like, we want to create these amazing relationships with these agents. And they're our friend, they're our partners in this business. And we want to win big with them. And we want to create these strategic relationships and approach it that way where let's figure out a way to where we all win together. We all make money together. So guys, leave a comment if you have any questions about anything we covered in this video. We can't wait to do more. We're going to be rolling out some more videos in this series. Leave any comments you have, and thank you, Jamil, for all you do.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys on the next video.